Take me to another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical, magical land. Magical, magical land. To another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical, magical land.
Today's guest is a podcast host and a life purpose coach. She helps people to discover their passions and turn them into a career. Additionally, she's a body worker and an outdoor enthusiast. Please welcome to the show, Miinkay Yu. Hello, Miinkay. How are you doing? Welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. Before we dive into what your business is about and how you help other people and so on, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What is your story?
Well, like you said, my name is Miinkay Yu. I'm originally from Texas, but now I live in Los Angeles, California, and I'm a life purpose coach. And my story starts back when I was in college. I actually have an engineering degree. So I picked that degree because that's what my parents wanted me to do, and I didn't know what else to do. And I was good at math, I was good at science, so it just seemed like the right fit for me. And it was practical, right? I would leave college with a degree that I could get a job and be, on my way to having a family and then a home and then 3 kids, right? And then retiring. Like that was the American dream. So that's where I thought I was going to go, but my life didn't really actually end up that way. I ended up deciding not to become an engineer for my job, and I went into consulting after that. I didn't like consulting either, and spent 8 years doing that. And that was a long time to be doing something that I didn't enjoy, but I didn't know what else to do. I had no idea how to find what my purpose was, what I was meant for, what was a better job for me, because right, you go from, first grade to second grade to third grade, and so forth. And then you go to college, and then after college, it's the real world. And the real world is so different than your whole life up until you graduate. And so at that point, I had to figure out, okay, what do I do with my life? How do people figure out what they do with their lives? Yeah. And that was a really tough time in my life for me. But, eventually I figured it out. I quit my job, and I quit it cold turkey. When I quit, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I didn't want to be a consultant. And so I quit and I left that behind, and I had no idea what I wanted for my life. And I went through 6 months of anxiety, depression, a really tough spot in where I was because I was so unhappy. And I had all these ideas of myself of like, I'm a capable person, but I'm 30 and I haven't figured out what I wanted to do with my life. And I just quit my job, which is, my source of income, insurance, safety net. What am I doing with my life? Why did I do that? And I just went through like 6 months of internal struggle. But at the same time, I knew it was the right thing for me. So essentially, I had to deal with my mental health. And then I started to figure out, okay, what do I, when I calmed down after that whole mental health struggle, I started to figure out, okay, what do I want for myself? And I went back to basics and I just explored, tried different things, went to different places, tried to meet more people. Eventually, I found this manual therapy called craniosacral therapy. And when I found it, I was like, what is that? What now? And my friend actually was doing it because she's a therapist, and she was explaining it to me, and she said, oh, I think you would be really good at doing this. You should take a class and try it out. And something in me said, that sounds weird, but just try it. It doesn't make sense why you would do that, but just try it and see what happens. And at that point in my life, I was trying to do things differently than I had done before, because I used logic, I used practicality, I used everything that I knew to get myself into college to get my consulting career. But all of that led me down a path that I didn't want, and none of it made me happy. So when I quit my job, I was thinking to myself, I need to change the way that I do things, because obviously the way that I do things and the way that I pick my choices and the way that I pick things is not making me happy. And so I discovered this thing called intuition, and I was trying to use that to help me make decisions. And when you follow your intuition, it's all about doing what doesn't make sense, but doing what something, that little voice inside of you tells you to do. And it didn't make sense for me to go into manual therapy, body work, this weird craniosacral thing that someone just told me about. But something inside me said, just try it, just do it. So I said, okay, this time I'll listen to it, because that was a difference before. I had never listened to that little voice. So I said, okay, I'll listen to it. And I took a class and I ended up loving it. It was amazing. It was really life-changing for me to see that this kind of work existed in the world. I had no idea that it was even there, but it's been there for about 20, 30 years already. And it really fit what I was interested in. And so I went down this rabbit hole of taking another class and another class and another class, and eventually led me to the career of massage therapy, because you need a license to do this kind of work, and massage is the easiest license to get. So then I started studying massage, and then that led me to another modality like energy work, and then another modality within, body work and hands-on healing. And I found what I wanted to do. And so as I was, turning my life around, making this huge switch from consulting into body work, my friends who were watching me write blogs and seeing my posts about everything that I'm doing, they started to ask me, hey, how do I do that? How do I quit my job too? Because I don't like what I'm doing either. Like, how do I find what I want to do? Because I don't enjoy what I'm doing. And so I saw this huge need in my community to help people that are going through what I went through. And so then I got some training and I became a coach. And eventually I just kind of started to niche down into figuring out, okay, at first I was helping people with their career, just career in general. And then I figured out, what I really should be doing is helping people find their purpose, find their passion, which is what I did. And it's funny because it didn't dawn on me that I should do that until like 2 years into my coaching. But when I finally decided to niche into that area, it really made sense. And now I'm building a business, an online business around, finding your purpose, finding what's meaningful to you, turning your life around so that you can be happy in your career, because I think everyone deserves to be happy, especially with something that you're working 8+ hours a day for. You should feel excited to wake up for your work. You should feel like you enjoy what you're doing every day, and that you're not having to drag yourself out of bed. You're not having to just, sit at a computer for a paycheck. Yeah. Right. That's the quickest way to depression and, low self-worth, low self-esteem. But when I started this path and really coming into a career that fits me, it fits who I am, my personality, my whole life started to change. And I've been happier than I've ever been, even though I make a fraction of the money that I did when I was a consultant. Yeah. And it's really true. You have to experience it. Like, money does not buy you happiness. And you always hear that money does not buy you happiness, but it's not until you experience that money does not buy you happiness that you truly know money does not buy you happiness. So that was a long-winded answer to your question, who I am, but yeah.
I would like to dig a little deeper. So what was the trigger of jumping out of the corporate world for you?
I really was just fed up. with how my life was and what I didn't like about corporate work. There's a lot of red tape. I couldn't do what I thought was best. I always had to follow what the client thought was best, even though they might not. If I disagreed or if I didn't think it was that way. And I always had to follow what my superiors told me to do. And there was only one way up, one way to make more money, one way to improve yourself. And I didn't necessarily want to become a manager, right? Like in corporate, you go from like, you do the dirty work until you become an expert, and then you become a manager, and then you become an even higher manager, and then all, et cetera, et cetera. But there's that point where you're like, well, I like doing the dirty work, or I like doing these little nitty gritty things. And when you become a manager, you don't do that anymore, and you just do a whole nother thing where you're just organizing people. And I didn't like that progression, and I didn't fit into the corporate life.
Yeah.
It wasn't for me. I wanted to tell people what I wanted to do, and nobody would listen. And the work that I was doing wasn't meaningful to me. I think it was important work for the world to have. But it wasn't meaningful to me.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to like wiggle myself around, like, oh, let me try this job and let me try that job within my company. And none of it ever worked. I tried really hard to fit in to corporate culture, but I exhausted myself trying to fit in until I finally said, I don't fit in, and decided that this wasn't for me. And it was a hard decision to make. But at that point, I was so unhappy that the idea of quitting made me so happy that I just knew that's what I had to do.
Yeah. It's quite interesting that you mentioned that it's like fitting into the corporate world and getting up the staircase of the corporate world is quite different than running your own business and living for your purpose as a human being, happy with yourself. Sometimes it works and it's the same, but I see it quite often that it doesn't. I've seen it for myself as well, that jumping out of the corporate world unleashed a lot of things, and enabled me to do things differently, as well as stepping out into showing who I am and not just me being one part of the corporate, not just representing the corporate, which is always the case when you are working in a corporate world. Then it's like you're representing the corporate, not just yourself. So you always need to be cautious. And that's where I've seen it as well for myself, as like stepping out of that as like, hey, now I can be truly myself. And for me, it was like, hey, I will not wear shirts anymore. I love t-shirts. I love hoodies. I love other shirts. Like, I don't need to do that just to please someone. And just these small things.
Yeah, I love that. It truly is like you expressing your individuality.
Yeah.
And getting to do that every day and being accepted for that and being listened to, right? I think the future of the world is not having so many big corporate companies, but a lot more smaller companies where people can collaborate and truly be themselves and, put forth the work that shows you who you are, right? Because as an entrepreneur, I don't plan on being the only one in my business for the rest of my life. I need help, especially if I want to build this vision. And then if I can find people that share my same vision, I'd be happy to have them on my team and just share whatever we need to share, but also want to make sure that they're able to, meet their goals and their own purpose and their own things that they want and feel fulfilled, because I think that's where we're going to hit that sweet spot of people are going to be happy in their career and they don't have to, work for someone they don't enjoy working for, but they can still be themselves and use their talents and feel fulfilled. That's my hope and dream for the world.
Yeah, love that. So how do you see it when you have started building your own business? Did you do that with a specific plan, or did you just go with the flow? How did you do that?
Yeah, I kind of went with the flow. For a couple years, I got my certification to coach, and then I was coaching and just getting people through referrals and friends.
Mm.
And then COVID happened, and so I was coaching and doing body work, massage therapy on the side. And so it was like 70% massage and then 30% coaching.
Mm.
And then COVID happened and it quickly flipped because I had to, I had to change because I couldn't see people anymore. And so when I decided, okay, I need to build up this coaching side of my business, the first thing I was thinking is, okay, how do I move everything online? What do I need to become an online business? What is that like? What does that even mean? And so I just jumped into this foray of, building an audience, creating things that people can get value out of, teaching. I started a podcast, which is how I met you through a podcasting group that we're in. So, figuring out that I have these things to teach and these things to say, and then creating a platform for myself to start putting it out in the world, because I think people need this information that I have, and it's time. And, the universe forced me to start talking about it. So here I am, just teaching people about intuition, finding your passion, personal development, growing, and, just generally coaching people, supporting them through whatever they're going through, because also, a lot is happening in the world and I think people need it. Yeah. So it was kind of like an organic thing that I like. Now I'm kind of changing and evolving with the time, and also, seeing the need for it, right? It's like sometimes when you're on the right path, it's like the universe shows you what it needs and you fill in the gaps. Like people started showing up and talking to me about their careers who didn't know that I was a career coach. And I said, oh, actually, like I started getting into a lot of those conversations, like, oh, actually, this is what I do for a living. And so then I started helping people that way. And I noticed a pattern of I'm saying all the same things a lot. So then, okay, how can I say this and put it out there? And that was, got me into podcasting. So yeah, it's kind of been this interesting and organic evolution.
Yeah. How would it work? So imagine, like, I'm listening to your podcast. I'm intrigued about what you're saying, what you're teaching. I follow you on social media. I'm connected. Like, I check out your website and so on, and then I'm signing up for like an engagement with you. How would you take someone who is, let's say, imagine yourself back still working in a large corporation, and then having already an idea that, like, an urge that I would love to step out of that. How would you take this person in finding their way?
Yeah, I would say, one of the things I talk to people about is, you care about something when you could talk about it for an hour nonstop. Someone just has to ask you one question. So what is that thing for you? Can you talk about it? And then is that something that you want to be teaching people? And I think that's always an important question to ask is, do you want to teach that? Because even though you are interested in it and you can talk about it, some people aren't ready to teach it or to lead it or to guide people through it, which is a whole other aspect, right? But if you are ready, then, think about starting your own online business, which means, building an audience who are interested in your topic and what you're teaching and who you are, and then start to find a platform that you can speak through. Find something that's comfortable for you. And social media, there's so many options right now that you can get overwhelmed, but just pick one. Pick one, Facebook or Instagram, or, but don't be like, okay, Facebook and Instagram are similar, so I'll do both of them. Just start with one. and then start talking. Start saying something, do a live, do a little video, do a picture post. If you're a photographer, you love to take pictures, but start to communicate in the way that is natural for you. So for me, I don't really take pictures. So I don't post pictures, but I'm really comfortable with public speaking because I've been doing it for so long. So that's why I picked podcasting.
Yeah.
Because it just was a natural sort of evolution for me in my life. So, but for whoever's listening, you pick what's right for you, because what's most natural for you is going to be the easiest place to start.
Yeah.
And once you start, keep going, keep tweaking, keep learning about what you're doing, keep improving, notice what people are engaging with you in, what they're saying, and keep this open dialogue of service, because what you want to avoid is getting so deep within what you think people need that you're not actually giving them what they actually need.
Yeah.
So start there, start putting yourself out there, and then let it grow. Because as you keep that open dialogue between people and what they need, then you can start to create services, products, things that they're going to pay for, and start to build a business out of that. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah,
Jens?
absolutely. I think that's always the thing when you come out of a corporation, like you're used to, hey, we have a business plan and we need to do this like step by step by step. And that's not really how it's going to work in all details, because you learn while you do it, you learn step by step. But if you don't put yourself out there, if you're not starting a podcast, you don't know how it is to do a podcast. If you don't start writing a blog, you don't know how it is.
Exactly.
And the cool thing for me, it was always what I said for myself, for example, I said, I will do this now for a couple of months, this specific thing. And if I then don't like it or I'm not happy with it, I can still dump it. Because in the end, it's yes, maybe people are saying, hey, that's stupid that you started it, but it's at least a learning. So
yes.
How do you help people with like finding out what is the right thing for them?
Okay, that's a good question. And that's where I like to turn people back inward and to this idea of intuition. Because what's right for somebody else is not always going to be right for you. Yeah. You see other people doing podcasts and you're like, oh, maybe I should do a podcast. But maybe that's not the right avenue for you, because podcasting is not going to fit your personality, what you love, as much as another platform. So how to really get to know that is to know yourself, know who you are, know what you like, know what you don't like, and listen to yourself. And in a way that's hard to understand, because I think it's knowing about your intuition, and that little voice inside of you is kind of like so ethereal a little bit. Because I always tell people, like, you have your brain that's talking to you, and your brain is logical. It will say, you go to the grocery store and you pick up an apple and you see, okay, this apple is very red. It smells good. There's no holes around it. It's not bruised. It's going to be a good apple. You can use your brain to figure that out. But your heart speaks to you in a different way. Your intuition is essentially your heart. And it's going to tell you sometimes things that you don't understand why or how it knows what it knows, but it'll say it anyway. So people often have stories of, oh, that day I knew I shouldn't have gone to the grocery store. And, maybe there was a robbery at the grocery store. Or, you hear stories where people say, oh, that day I just felt like I needed to take my kid out of school and something happened at school. So it's that little voice that doesn't make sense. You don't know why it's telling you to do something, but you have that urge that you really want to do it. And it's when your head and your heart are not agreeing, that you have this internal struggle and you can't decide what to do. You feel stuck. So that's what creates that feeling. So if you've ever felt like you're stuck between two decisions of you don't know what to do, it's because you're hearing two things going on in your body and you don't know which one to pick because they're so opposing. So slow down and start to listen clearly to each one and what they're saying to you, because I think both are probably valid. Like, you need your brain to help you make your appointments on time, to make sure that you're, eating at the right time, to make sure that you're just, keeping up with life. And you also need your heart to tell you what's best for you, because the way that your brain works is through logic. It tries to prevent you from, getting hurt, going, bad things happening to you. But your heart, all it's concerned about is what is going to make you happy. Mm-hmm. It will want to keep you out of danger, and it gets really loud when your life is in danger. But it usually just only wants to make you happy. It's not about it's not about helping you make money. It doesn't care about how much money you have. Yeah. It doesn't care that you have health insurance. It doesn't care that, you are going to eat today. It just wants to make you happy. And so when you have this voice that's only concerned about your happiness, but you still have to live life like, oh, I have to make this appointment. I can't, go to the park instead. I need to go to the doctor, even though I don't want to go to the doctor, but I need to just go for my health. Like, you have these wrestling thoughts. And so when you don't know what to do, I encourage people to slow down and check back in with their heart, because what is truly going to make you happy is where you should go first. Even if it's not going to make you money, even if you don't know where it's going to take you, even if it seems like the worst idea, just try it, because you can't go wrong if you're going to be happy for, 5 minutes. If you think podcasting is going to make you happy, but you have no idea how you're going to pay for it, just do it. Just try it. Mm. And don't be afraid to try it and risk failure, because your brain is going to tell you not to do it because it's afraid. It's protecting you from that failure. And that's where you're going to get that internal struggle, where your heart wants to do something and your head wants you to do something else. So really take the time to understand, okay, why am I afraid? Why is my head telling me no? And are those really valid things? Because if they're not, just tell your brain, like, it's okay to fail. It's okay that I'm not going to make money for, 2 months. It's okay that I'm going to do this because I'm going to want to take the sacrifice so that I can experience the happiness that it could bring me.
That's such a great answer, because when I work with a lot of businesses, of course, their heart is switched off. And specifically when I'm coaching, it's all about innovation coaching. How do you take your business to the next level on all these topics? And it's basically you explain prototyping from a different angle perspective, because that's what prototyping is as well about. It's like, of course, you have a plan, you have a business understanding of it, but it's also following your intuition, which is like, hey, maybe we try it this way instead of that way. And that often, at least for myself and my business, that helped me to like, oh my God, I should have done it earlier. At least for me, I am trained to switch that off. And I think that's most probably something where people struggle with, is not allowing that voice, or not allowing that to hear it themselves.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Because, the head is louder. Fear is louder. Yeah. Worry is louder. But the heart is it's not gonna be logical about something. It'll just say, try it. Try that new sport. Try this weird idea. Try it. And it's not going to tell you why you should try it. It's not going to say, oh, try it because it's going to be good for you. It's never going to say that because it just knows it'll be good for you. It's just going to say, try it, and it'll keep pushing you until you actually do it. And you know that it's your heart when you ignore it and it comes back. And then you ignore it, it comes back, and ignore it, it comes back. And, when I talk to people and I coach people, people usually have something like, oh, yeah, this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. That's your heart speaking to you. And you've been ignoring it. And so, get back to that. Go back to that thing that you've been ignoring because it's important for you, even if you don't know why.
How does it then work? So if you're engaging with your clients, with the people you work with, is it like a one-on-one session or a group session? How do you do that?
Usually I work one-on-one. I've been looking more into doing groups because I find that as I'm working more one-on-one, that a lot of people have the same issues. And so now I'm at the point where I feel like I can start creating teachings and little courses and products that people can do on their own, self-paced. Because what I'm doing right now is, and when I coach, I kind of teach a little bit too, but I don't have to be, people don't have to pay me my hourly rate just to teach them. I could teach them through a video and then they can come back to me with questions. And that would be a better use of my time and their money.
Yeah, that's interesting because there are a lot of people out there who are specifically in pandemic, in the time where we are in right now. We are recording this in early 2021, and in a lot of places out there right now, it's the second or third lockdown. It's like people are fearing to lose their job going forward or have lost their job. So they're looking for what's happening next. Where should I spend my time? Should I look for another job, whatever? And I think that's also a perspective where taking your perspective is helping people in that situations and finding out what is their life purpose and understanding what they really truly want to do is a huge opportunity right now.
Yeah, I think it's hard because people think, oh, I have to go do something, or I have to start a new thing, or I have to do this. But really the key to figuring out what you want is to not do anything at all. Is to slow down enough so that you're not thinking and you're not using your brain. Because when your brain speaks, it's hard to hear your heart. So if you can slow down enough to where you're not using your brain so much, you're just, being quiet, being still, taking a walk and hiking, doing something that you enjoy, that's when the intuitive voice shows up more. And that's when you hear more of that guidance. And that's what people need right now. And it actually now is a perfect time to slow down because the world has essentially slowed down. So if you're listening to this, give yourself permission to not do anything for a little bit so that you can start to get to know yourself better and then create that foundation for yourself where you can hear yourself better, you can take care of yourself better, and that will create a place where you can then find what is important to you and then create a life around you that you want. Yeah.
And I love this aspect. And that's also why I wanted to have you on my show, because that's basically a part of innovation. It's like trying in different ways, figuring things out and understanding, looking at things from a different perspective, and then taking the next step.
Yes.
And that's so interesting so I can use so many things of what you're saying in a business context and as well from an innovation perspective. That's why it's so valid. I really love that perspective.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's like, how do we change things? How do we change the world going forward? We will not be able to change the world if we stick to how we are doing it today. So that means we need to figure out getting truly to ourselves and understanding, okay, what do I want to change and how do I want to change it to be able to change it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Using that for, so how do you see innovation from, I mean, you have worked at a bit large consultancy, which is funny. I've been working at that company as well, a couple of months back. So how do you see innovation from your perspective in the work you're doing with the people you work with?
I think my job as a coach is to help people step into their own individuality and to empower them to understand that their ideas are valid and worth exploring. And I think that's where I want to support innovation, in helping people step into who they truly are and allowing them to have the thoughts and ideas that they want to express. Because I think that stuff gets muffled and, put away by companies where it doesn't meet their expectations, but there's still valid, wonderful ways that people have thoughts and ideas. And that's where innovation is going to come from, is encouraging people to think differently, to think in their own way, right? Our uniqueness is innovative. So that's how I want to make my mark on the world, is to encourage more individuality, more creativity, more people to step into using their talents, because I think also some people don't realize what their talents are, so they don't use them. But if you can discover and find those talents, then you can start creating more innovation in that area. Like, for example, I had no idea that I would be good at body work. Before I went to massage school, I had never gotten a massage. But once I discovered that I was good at it, now I have all these ideas and opportunities and ways that I want to change the industry and improve it and create material for it. And that's where I'm creating innovation. So I think when people can find that their place in the world, that's when they're empowered the most to be innovative and to create change and make things better.
Love that. So imagine you could be part or leading a large project or something. Don't necessarily need to be large, but something that's felt, that's explored, that's experienced by a lot of people, if not even all people around the globe. What would this project or topic be, and why?
It would definitely be about intuition and helping people understand and experience what intuition is. Because I think that would also be a key for people finding out what is best for them, what they're into, what is good for them, what is going to make them happy. And when more people are in a place of happiness, that's when things change, things get better, passion comes forth. I think the world would be a better place if we all understood that we have this skill inside of us that we can use to improve our lives. And if we've, it's like, you have two parents and you want to listen to both of them equally and you want to give respect to both of them, but you're not. Like, when you listen to your head more than your heart, you're only listening to one side of the story and you're not listening to the other side. And so can we start to change that and teach people from even at a young age to listen to themselves more, because that's what's going to create a better place, a better world.
Yeah, that's great. Slowly getting towards an end. I have a couple of questions I'm always asking. So where do you see yourself in a year from now? Where will you be? What's happened? And you can answer that from a personal perspective and or business perspective. Both is fine.
Oh, yeah. Definitely be further along in my business with a bigger audience, more podcast shows. more offerings for people, mini courses that can help people, probably about intuition, meditation, and personal development, ways that people can improve their lives. And then eventually working on like more projects that I care about, like sustainability. I really care about what's happening to the earth right now. And so I want to use my talents and interests to help that part of the world in some way. Right now I'm looking into like sustainable housing, like building homes out of earth instead of out of timber and wood, and creating a way to live more harmoniously with the earth, I think is going to be important for my own happiness and for the world.
Yeah, that's cool. So how do you keep yourself up to date? What are the things you consume and get your knowledge from?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. Definitely podcasts. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm subscribed to a lot of podcasts. So when these days when I do get in the car, which is not as often as I used to, or when I go for a walk, I'll put on, some news or a show or something that I'm interested in to keep up with the world. And just, connecting with my friends, because, hearing what they're going through, what they found out, what they heard is always a more pleasant way for me to find out what's going on in the world than me just reading it on the internet.
I get that. That's cool. So where can people find you? How can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I have my website is miinkayu.com. It's miinkayyu.com. You can find me there on the website. You can listen to my podcast, which is called the What's Your Calling podcast. It's on Apple, Spotify, and everywhere where you find podcasts. And you can just email me. You can email coach@miinkayyu.com.
Yeah, and I will put that as well into the show notes. Before we close our conversation, a little bit about your podcast. So what is your podcast about? Give us a little bit of intro to it.
Yeah. So I started it as a way to start teaching what I know about finding your calling. So half the podcast is me talking about important topics like dealing with failure, understanding yourself better, understanding what intuition is, how to work on your intuition. And then the other half are inspiring stories of people that I've met who, were in a career that they didn't like and found a way to find their passion and are doing the work that they love. So I want to, encourage people and inspire them to know that no matter where you are in your career, what avenue you've gone down, it's not too late to change, and it's not too late to figure out what's better for you.
Yeah. And I have listened to a couple of episodes. It's really good podcast. So can highly encourage you guys listening to the podcast as well. And of course, subscribing to it as well. Thank you very much, Miinkay. It was a pleasure talking to you. And thank you getting up in the morning to talk to me late in the evening. It was a pleasure.
Me too. I had a good time and you asked really good questions. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you.
Take me to another place where the fairy tales don't end. Magical land. To another place where the fairy tales don't end.